Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupane avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. Just give me a few minutes. Actually, last time all the things we had to arrange, and so today morning I was a little late. Okay, so we are ready. So as you know, we'll be continuing our discussion on Sri Ramakrishna's fascinating spiritual journey. Of course, in the briefest possible way. It is a very, very long and interesting story which we can take up in detail at some other time. So this is just, we are trying to have a pictorial demonstration, so to say, with pictures of the places connected and the people connected. So I'll just share a few pictures with you. Again, what we had discussed the last time. So it all happened, as you know, in this sacred place, the Dakshineshwar temple, which Rani Rasmani had built. And we have seen last time that after his marriage, Sri Ramakrishna stayed at Kamarpukur for about 1.5 years. And as soon as he returned to Dakshineshwar, he was again seized with a terrible longing for God realization, vision of the Divine Mother. So this you can see, this is a new photograph which I got just a few days before. This is by Vishwaranjan Chakravarti. So here we see Sri Ramakrishna's yearning for Divine Mother. He says that he would rub his face on the ground and cry with longing. And we have seen last time of his sadhana in the Panchavati that he says that I would sit in deep meditation with my body perfectly still, losing all consciousness of the outside world. This is a photograph of the Panchavati. At that time, for want of proper care, my hair was matted. Birds would perch on my head and peck the grains of rice left there during the time of worship. Often snakes would crawl over my motionless body, and neither I nor the snake knew it. Oh, what visions flitted past my eyes day and night. So sadhana of the place for all this sadhana was the Panchavati. You can see this is a 1930 photograph, and this what you see is from the 1950s. This is 1977. So we have seen all this last time. Now, first, he practiced the Tantric Sadhana under the guidance of Bhairavi Brahmani. So, Brahmani put him through all the exercises mentioned in the 64 principal Tantra books, and most of them were extremely difficult sadhanas. But Sri Ramakrishna says, by the infinite grace of the Mother, he succeeded in all of them. So here you can see picture of Bhairavi Brahmani. It's a wonderful painting. It is in the cremation ground, and you can see the jackal also below. And we have seen last time, this is the place where Sri Ramakrishna performed his Tantric Sadhana. It's called the Panchamundi Asana. Mundi means skull. So they place 5 skulls, under the ground and all that. They have their own method of sadhana. So Sri Ramakrishna also did that. So this is that place, and this is also the same place which was recent photograph, 1977. After this, in 1864, a great devotee of Sri Ramachandra Jatadhari came to Dakshineshwar. This is the place where the Bhairavi Brahmani lived. And this photograph also I got just 2 days before. I had not shown you last time, I did not have it then. This is also by Vishwaranjan Chakravarti, wonderful painting. Here we see the monk Jatadhari, devotee of Sri Ramachandra, and he initiated Sri Ramakrishna in the Rama mantra, and Sri Ramakrishna had the vision of Sri Ramachandra, and that metal image which Jatadhari carried, that also we had seen last time. So this is that metal image which Sri Ramakrishna saw as living. He told afterwards, I saw Ramlala as vividly as I see you all, now dancing gracefully before me, now springing on my back or insisting on being taken up in my arms. So all these divine things actually took place. After this, he practiced the different phases of devotion laid down in the scriptures of the Vaishnava tradition. That is the Dasya Bhava, which you can see Hanuman was the embodiment of Dasya Bhava, that is regarding God as one's master. Then this is Krishna and Yashoda. This is the attitude where an aspirant thinks of God as his own son. Then Krishna Sudama, where an aspirant thinks of God as his friend. Then of course Radha and Krishna. The photograph. So all these we have seen last time. So today we will discuss Sri Ramakrishna's practice of first Islam, then Christianity, and then finally Vedanta. But we have to remember that actually first he performed Vedanta sadhana under Totapuri. After that came the practice of Islam and Christianity. But first we will discuss the other two, Islam and Christianity, and then go to Vedanta, because actually after Vedanta there is nothing remains, that is the final word. So this also we'll see through some pictures and beautiful paintings by the same artist, Vishwaranjan Chakravarti. So let me just. So, about his Islam sadhana, towards the end of 1866, Sri Ramakrishna was attracted by the faith and devotion of a Sufi mystic. Sufism, as a school in Vedanta, school in Islam, like in Hinduism, we have many sects, they have also many sects. So, a Sufi mystic came to Dakshineshwar at that time. His name was Govind Rai, and he had embraced Islam and lived at Dakshineshwar at this time. So, gradually it came to the mind of Sri Ramakrishna that since Islam was also a means to the realization of God, he would see how God showered his grace on devotees who worshipped him through that path. So he got initiation from this Govind Rai. Govind Rai initiated Thakur in the practice of Islam, and of course, like as was his habit, to this also Sri Ramakrishna applied himself with all the zeal, enthusiasm, and he described what he felt like that at that time in his own words. So I'll just quote him. He said, "Then I used to repeat the name of Allah, wear my cloth in the fashion of the Mohammedans, and recite the namaz regularly. All Hindu ideas being wholly banished from my mind. Not only did I not salute the Hindu gods, but I had no inclination even to visit them." So he forgot everything. I mean, that was a unique thing. In ordinary people, it can never be done. Only in incarnations, and even amongst incarnations, we only find in Ramakrishna that this was there, possible. That because you see these attitudes, spiritual attitudes, what we develop, those are developed with great tapasya, great sadhana. Years and years, maybe lives, people strive to gain perfection in one mood. That mood has to completely capture the mind. I mean, nothing else remains in the mind then. So, to completely banish that mood and replace it with a perfectly new mood is for ordinary persons absolutely impossible. It is absolutely cannot be done. And need not be done also, because ordinary people have no need for that. Only prophets like incarnations like Sri Ramakrishna who come to deliver a message, only they can do, and only for them it is needed. So this is a unique feature of Thakur's incarnation. So he says that all Hindu ideas were completely banished from my mind. And he says that just after 3 days, I realized the goal of that form of devotion, means he succeeded in his sadhana through that path, the path of Islam, just in 3 days. 3 days because he had done everything else before. No, what was there to be done? So, and about his experience, he says, first of all, he saw a radiant person with a long beard and a grave appearance. This was the vision he saw. So he has not described whether it was who was that, Muhammad or maybe I don't know. And then he said his mind passing through the realization of Brahman with attributes, that is Ishvara, was finally absorbed in Brahman without attributes. That is called the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which he had attained through Vedanta sadhana before, which we'll discuss. So this much about his Islamic sadhana, but just one incident I will mention, and I will show a few photographs also. So once when Sri Ramakrishna was, first of all I will show the place in Dakshineshwar where he practiced that sadhana. That is still there. Of course, it is all painted and all now. So this is the Ghazipur shrine at Dakshineshwar. Share here also. This is the Ghazipur shrine at Dakshineshwar where he practiced those sadhanas. Of course, it may not have been like this. Now it is painted and all. And there are beautiful paintings. So here you can see Thakur standing besides Govind Rai, that has been depicted in the book, which is there, Sri Ramakrishna for children. And this is another beautiful painting. Here also we can see that Sri Ramakrishna is being initiated in the Muslim faith. And the incident which I will mention is that occurred beside a mosque. I'll show that picture also. So what happened was actually Sri Ramakrishna was returning from Kali Ghat. He used to go to Kali Ghat to have the darshan of Mother Kali there. So once he was returning from there in a carriage, and there is a very major road in Calcutta, something like our Broadway or something. It is called Central Avenue. So very, very old road, and I have traveled through that maybe thousands of times because I lived very near this place. My home was very near this place, which I'll show you. Yeah. So Sri Ramakrishna was traveling through that place and there was a mosque. So it was evening. That mosque's name is Geratala Mosque. That was a very small building then. I have also seen it just like this. I will show you the photograph. Yeah. Now it is a very big structure because after joining the Ramakrishna order, when I had gone once, I saw that the whole place is changed. But this I have seen exactly like this. So when he was going, he heard the loud prayer of a Muslim sadhaka, Muslim fakir. What was the prayer? That, oh my beloved, please come, oh my beloved. That he was calling on God very sincerely. And he was repeating this prayer with love and longing and weeping for God. So Sri Ramakrishna saw that and immediately climbed down from the carriage and rushed up to that person, rushed up to that fakir and embraced him. So this was what Sri Ramakrishna wanted, that people should genuinely be devoted to God. Whichever path they follow does not matter at all. So I will just show you that photograph. It is this is the place. This is the place. This is a place in the road called Central Avenue. This is called Geratala Mosque. Now it is a big building. It's a mosque only, but a very big mosque. So yeah, but this I have passed through thousands of times when I was a young person. So this is one thing. Now we will go to his Christian sadhana. That is also very interesting. So after this 7 years elapsed, then came his practice of Christianity. So in 1874, Sri Ramakrishna came into intimate contact with Shambhunath Mallik of Calcutta, who had a garden close to Dakshineshwar Kali temple. So Sri Ramakrishna used to spend a good deal of his time in the garden house of that Shambhu, and who became gradually very devoted to the master. And after Mathur's death, after Mathur died, Mathur Babu, he supplied Sri Ramakrishna with everything. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that some people had been born to, in Bengali he called it Rasakdar, that who would supply him with all the wants. So Shambhu was also one of them. And though Shambhu was not a Christian, but he was devoted to the Bible, so he used to read the Bible to Sri Ramakrishna. And through the Bible, the master came to know of Christ and Christianity. And when he heard that, he felt a strong desire to realize God by this new religion about which he had heard. For him it was new. So, and his desire was fulfilled in a strange way. So what actually happened was, one day Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in a big living room of a neighboring house, that Shambhu Malik. Besides the house of Shambhu Malik, there was the house of another devotee. He was Jadulal Malik. His name was Jadulal. So Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his drawing room one day. And I'll show you the photos of that Jadulal Malik's house, where Sri Ramakrishna was at that time. So this is one photograph. This you can see. Such a huge palatial house you can see. This is another photograph. This is a recent photograph. So what happened was, actually, I'll show you the painting also. Let us go to that incident first. So what happened at that time, that on the walls of Jadulal Malik's living room, there were many beautiful portraits. And one of them was of Christ as a baby in the hands of his mother. So Sri Ramakrishna began to look at that picture of Christ very attentively. And he began to reflect on the wonderful life of Christ, which he had heard from the Bible. Then what happened? He suddenly felt as that picture came alive, as if the picture had come alive, and that rays of light were emanating from the figures of Mary and Christ and entering into him. So as if the Christ's attitude, what will you say, that living Christ, so to say, entered into him. And immediately his whole mental outlook changed. Just like what had happened when he had practiced Islam. There was a great revolution in the mind. But first of all, we will see that portrait. Fortunately, it is still there, and now it is there in the Vedanta Society of San Francisco. Somehow they had managed to get it from India, yeah. So I'll show you that painting. This is the painting, and it is still very much there, and it is very well preserved in the Vedanta Society of San Francisco. It is still there. So this is that actual painting which Sri Ramakrishna had seen, and through which, as if Christ entered into him. So what happened was, as when he had practiced Islam, after this vision, Sri Ramakrishna found that new ideas were coming into his mind, and all the ideas of Hinduism again, as if were pushed aside. They were of no importance. And when Sri Ramakrishna found that was happening, that he prayed to the Divine Mother, what is happening? That all is, the Kali was everything to him, So he suddenly found everything going, my God. So he was startled that he told Mother, what are you doing this? What is happening? But Mother did not hear him. So all his love for Hindu gods were simply swept away in a corner, and in their place a very deep regard for Christ and Christian church filled his heart and opened to his eyes the vision of Christian devotees burning incense and candles before the picture of Jesus in the churches. And means there that path of Christianity filled his whole mind. So for 3 days he was completely immersed in those ideas. All Hindu ideas were completely not wiped away, not removed actually, but they were put in the background. So on the fourth day, he says, as he was walking in the Panchavati, he saw an extraordinary looking person of a very serene appearance approaching him with his gaze intently fixed on him. So that person was coming and looking intently at Sri Ramakrishna. So Sri Ramakrishna, of course, immediately realized that this man was not an Indian, he was of some foreign country. So the master was charmed and wondered who this person might be. And that figure drew nearer gradually, and something within Sri Ramakrishna told him that this is Christ. So actually he is having a vision of Christ. And it is written in his life that from his heart, someone said that this is Christ who poured out his heart's blood for the redemption of mankind and suffered agonies for the sake of all of us. It is none else but that master of yogis, Jesus, the embodiment of love. Then Jesus embraced Sri Ramakrishna and they merged in him. And then the master went into Samadhi and lost all outward consciousness. So from this time onwards, after this vision, Sri Ramakrishna was convinced that Jesus was also an incarnation of God. So in a very, very brief way we have discussed. So I'll just show you one beautiful painting of Sri Ramakrishna and Christ, and then we will see a photo of the church which Sri Ramakrishna had visited. So here you can see again the same artist, Vishwaranjan Chakravarti. So this is taken from a book which has narration also. The picture is a little small. And now we will see some photographs of the church. It is still there, of course, in Calcutta, which Sri Ramakrishna had visited. So once Sri Ramakrishna had gone to this church. It is on a street called Amherst Street. We have gone there so many times, maybe hundreds of times. Yeah. So because he wanted to see how Christians prayed to Jesus Christ. So this is a British Protestant church, Protestant and Catholic. So this is a Protestant church, and at that time we have on record that Reverend James Long was the minister at that church. This we know. And it is said that Mathur Babu, Mathur also accompanied the master. So here I will just share the photograph of that church and also on inside view. Fortunately, these places are almost unchanged as they are still there as they were in Sri Ramakrishna's time. The structure is almost unchanged as far as I know. So this is the outside of the church and this is the inside of the church. This is the inside of the church. So now we come to Sri Ramakrishna's practice of Vedanta. He had practiced all the different forms of devotion laid down in the scriptures, bhakti and all the attitudes and all different sects of Hinduism, etc. So all these experiences which he had had, which are on record, they were in the realm of personality. I mean, where our I is still there. So it is all on the plane of what is called in Vedanta dualism. But Vedanta says that that is not the final word. There is a plane where a spiritual aspirant completely loses his sense of I also. He does not feel that I am having a vision of God. Because if you think that I am having a vision of something, then you are different and that God is different. Although, of course, later we see that everything merged in Sri Ramakrishna, that is there. But in Vedanta says that the highest experience is when even this sense of I goes away. I is a product of ignorance. When we are thinking ourselves as separate from Atman, that is ignorance. Because Atman is only one. So anything which is seen as separate from the Atman actually is a hallucination. It does not exist. It is a mere appearance. So this I of ours is a mere appearance according to Vedanta. It is not real. That appearance of I is completely wiped out in that final experience which is called Advaita. Dvaita means dualism, two. That which is not two. It is not one because there can be no one without a two. The concept of one cannot be there till there is two. One in relation to what? So that is why beautifully it is described, it is not two. Because you can't say it is one. Wonderful way of putting it. So that state Sri Ramakrishna now experienced, and it has been beautifully described, wonderfully described, a long description in one life of Sri Ramakrishna. So although it is a long description, I will read out the whole thing to you because it is simply wonderful. I could find no such explanation anywhere. This description of the highest spiritual experience which a person can have. So it is described thus: beyond the realm of thought, transcending the domain of duality, leaving Maya with all her changes and modifications far behind, towering above the delusions of creation, preservation, and destruction, and sweeping away with an avalanche of ineffable bliss all relative ideas of pain and pleasure, weal and woe, good and evil, shines the glory of the eternal Brahman. the existence, knowledge, bliss, that is Sat Chit Ananda in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Knowledge, knower and known dissolve in one eternal consciousness. Birth, growth and death vanish in that infinite existence, and love, lover and beloved merge in that unbounded ocean of supreme felicity, quelling all doubts and misgivings, stopping the oscillations of the mind, exhausting the momentum of past action, breaking down the ridge poles which make up this body, where the soul has made its abode for untold ages. For so many births, we have been living in this body that the whole foundation of the body is completely broken. Then, stilling the body, calming the mind, and drowning the ego, comes the sweet joy of Brahman in that super conscious state. See how he is described, unbelievable. Then he says, space disappears into nothingness. Time is swallowed up in eternity. Causation becomes a dream of the past, and a tremendous effulgence annihilates the oppressive darkness of sense and thought. The world with its myriad heavenly bodies melts away. Even thought is hushed into silence, and only existence is. Just pure existence, nothing is there. Who can say what the soul feels in its communion with the self then? It cannot be described. He only knows that state who has experienced it. It is all stillness and indefinable. The soul, after a final struggle, leaps over the last barrier of relative existence, shatters its prison of matter, and merges in the infinite glory of Brahman. The Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the highest flight of Advaita philosophy, the highest state. Truth is there revealed in its perfection and glory. The sadhaka feels it as a tangible thing. His illumination is steady, his bliss constant, and the oblivion of this phenomenal universe is complete. So, complete freedom from matter for all time to come. The soul is completely free. There can never be any birth, death, suffering, etc. for that person who has reached this highest state. So, we will just see in a very brief manner how, with the help of his Guru Totapuri. It's a wonderful story, very long story, but we will just see it in a brief way now. So, this was, mind you, before his sadhana of Islam and Christianity. When he had his vision of the Divine Mother and he had practiced different sects of Hinduism, which have these different bhavas, like Vatsalya Bhava, Madhura Bhava, we have seen, regarding God as friend, regarding God as child, etc. So all these he had finished. Now, one day there came to the Dakshineshwar garden temple a Vedanta, a great monk by the name of Totapuri. So he was a Punjabi gentleman and he had become a monk when he was very young. So he had been initiated by a yogi who was the head of a monastery of the Naga sect in Ludhiana in Punjab. And it is said that Totapuri had practiced sadhana in a secluded forest on the banks of the sacred river Narmada. Like all these are regarded as very sacred. You know, in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, all these are very sacred rivers. And along the Narmada, there are many ashramas still. There are many ashramas, monastery. There is a very dangerous route actually, which travels along the Narmada. So many of our monks, it is called Narmada Parikrama, traversing the whole length of Narmada. So many of our monks have done that, and it is very dangerous. They have to travel absolutely penniless because many dacoits are there on the way, and they can kill you. If they find that you have money and all, they can kill you. It is all there in the reminiscences of some direct disciples also it is there. I think in Akhandanandji's reminiscence it is there that some dacoits had caught him, and when they found that he had no money, only then did they leave him. So he said that if there was if I had some money, they would have killed me. Rajasthan?
While chasing Swamiji.
Okay, but same thing happens here also. So it is a very, very difficult journey, that Narmada Parikrama. So anyway,
In Madhya Pradesh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
MP?
It started in Madhya Pradesh and went to Aravajalsi. Yeah, I think it is in Madhya Pradesh.
So anyway, that is a very difficult journey which sadhus even take now. So now, after being initiated by his guru, Totapuri had practiced sadhana in the secluded forest of the banks, which is located on the banks of river Narmada, and he had attained this highest state, which is called the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, after rigid austerities, tremendous austerities extending over 40 years, 40. 40 years of very, very hard tapasya he had done. And he had reached that state and become liberated. He had absolutely no more. He was completely free. He would roam about throughout the length and breadth of India. So after the passing away of his guru, Totapuri became the head of the monastery. And since he was a liberated soul, nothing in the world could affect him, joys, sorrows, etc. So he intended to spend the remaining years of his life in making pilgrimages to holy places of India. So he had been to Puri, very sacred place, in Ganga Sagar. Ganga Sagar is in very near Calcutta. I mean, people go there. And from Ganga Sagar, when he was returning, journeying along the course of the Ganga, he halted at Dakshineshwar, where he met Sri Ramakrishna. So when Totapuri was alighting from the boat, from the Ganga, he was coming down at the ghat. So he saw Sri Ramakrishna sitting on the ghat. So as soon as Totapuri saw, he was such a great soul, he could just see by looking at a person. So when he saw Sri Ramakrishna, he understood that Sri Ramakrishna was very, very advanced soul and he was absolutely fit for Vedanta sadhana. So Totapuri was greatly impressed and he went to the master and asked him, "Would you like me to teach you the Vedanta method of sadhana?" So Sri Ramakrishna said, "I don't know. my mother knows everything. Whatever my mother tells, I do. So Totapuri said, okay, you go and ask your mother. So he thought that Sri Ramakrishna would go to his mother and ask him. So he saw that Sri Ramakrishna entered the temple of Kali. And after coming out, Sri Ramakrishna said that my mother has told that yes, I can learn Vedanta from you. So at that time, Totapuri thought, oh, what superstitions this person has. He's going to a image made of, clay and all that, and he's telling his mother has told him. So Totapuri thought, doesn't matter, when I teach him Vedanta, everything, all these superstitions would go away. But actually the opposite happened. Anyway, so that is another story, that how Sri Ramakrishna became the guru of his gurus. Anyway, so yeah, that is the thing. So Sri Ramakrishna came and told Totapuri that yes, mother had instructed him to practice Vedanta under his tutelage. Now, Guru and disciples, they started their training. And in Vedanta, you have to be, if you want to become a serious sadhaka of Vedanta, you have to take monastic vows under that school, which we have also taken. So he said to Sri Ramakrishna that I will now initiate you into sannyasa, that is monastic vows under the Vedantic norms, Vedantic school. So Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, but it cannot be done within the Dakshineshwar temple because my mother is still alive. So this time he meant his own mother. Actually, Sri Ramakrishna's mother was living at him. Now, if his mother saw him with, all hair shaven and taking, she would feel very, very, sad that my son has become a monk. So Sri Ramakrishna said, okay, I can be initiated in a sannyasa, but just a little outside the temple where my mother can't see me. So he said, okay. Totapuri said, okay. That place, photographs I will show you, that kutia, that small hut where Sri Ramakrishna practiced. But unfortunately, everything is gone now. Gone forever. The great people who are looking after Dakshineshwar, they have wiped out all those places. So very, very sad. So anyway, so Sri Ramakrishna said he had no objection, but it had to be done in private because his aged mother, elderly mother, who was living at Dakshineshwar temple, would feel very sad to see him with his head shaven and in a ochre cloth and all. So Totapuri agreed, and one auspicious day was selected, and Totapuri asked Sri Ramakrishna to perform all the ceremonies. So many things have to be done. We do our Shraddha and all that, so many mantras, etc. are there. So after this, the teacher and the disciple, Totapuri and Sri Ramakrishna, entered that room. I will show you the photograph of that room. So holy mantras were chanted, at that time we pour oblations into the fire and one vow, then swaha, like that. All those things are done. So all those things were done, where actually those vows means that person who takes monastic vows renounces all the lokas. Lokas means worlds. He has no desire to go to heaven or anything. He renounces all the worlds and renounces all desires for enjoyment also. Everything is given up in that fire. So after when that is done, then the disciple approaches his guru for instruction. That is the method of sannyasa. So Sri Ramakrishna did all that, then approached Totapuri, his guru. So now Totapuri instructed him into the mysteries of Brahman, that is the ultimate reality. What did he say? That Brahman is the only reality, ever free, beyond the limits of time, space and causation. When a seeker is merged in samadhi, he does not perceive time and space, nor name and form, which are all the products of Maya. Now Totapuri said to Sri Ramakrishna, pierce through the maze of name and form and dive deep within yourself and be firmly established in Samadhi. This way he tried to make Sri Ramakrishna attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi on that day itself. He tried. So when we see that Sri Ramakrishna himself has described his appearance, these experiences at that time. So we are very fortunate to get that. So Sri Ramakrishna described this thus: after the initiation, my Guru asked me to withdraw the mind completely from all objects, all the worldly objects, and dive deep into the Atman. I had no difficulty in withdrawing the mind from all other objects except one, Mother Kali. His mind was already habituated to go into Savikalpa Samadhi, where he had the vision of Mother constantly, practically constantly. So that was no problem for him. But Mother Kali would not go away. Because all his love was poured into Mother Kali. So I had no difficulty in withdrawing the mind from all other objects except one, the all too familiar form of the blissful Mother, radiant and the essence of pure consciousness. She was also consciousness, but there was a form, there was still form. So she appeared radiant and the essence of pure consciousness and as a living reality, and prevented me from passing beyond the realm of name and form. Mother was, as it were, holding him down. So I tried again and again, but I could not go beyond. So finally, I told Totapuri it is hopeless. I cannot raise my mind to the unconditioned state where there is nothing except the Atman. So Totapuri became excited. He could not take no for an answer. He knew that Sri Ramakrishna could do it. He was such a great soul. So Totapuri grew very excited and said, "What? You can't do it, you say, but you have to do it." So he cast his eyes around. Totapuri saw just what was in the hut. So he found a piece of glass. And he took up that glass and pressed the point of that glass between Sri Ramakrishna's eyebrows here. Yeah. And he said, concentrate the mind on this point. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, with stern determination, I again sat to meditate. Again Sri Ramakrishna tried. And he says, as soon as the gracious form of the Divine Mother appeared before me, I used my discrimination as a sword. So he imagined this discrimination is what? This is the path of Vedanta. Neti neti. Neti neti means na iti. Not this, not this. So what happens when a sadhaka practices Vedanta? Then when anything which comes to his mind, he tries to discriminate in this way that this is not Brahman, this cannot be Brahman because it has a form, and if it has a form, it has name also. So that is the way in which a sadhaka of Vedanta discriminates. So Sri Ramakrishna says that discrimination he now imagined as a kind of sword. And with that sword of discrimination, he cut the form of Mother Kali in two. This means that he told his mind that no, Brahman cannot be this because there is name and form still remaining. That is a way of discrimination. So as soon as he did that, he says that no more obstruction remained, and my mind at once soared beyond the relative plane, and I lost myself in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So Totapuri saw what had happened, but he waited for a long time because it was practically impossible what had happened. What he had achieved through 40 years, this person has achieved like this. So he silently watched his disciple. He said, let's see what happens, if it is real Samadhi or not. So he saw that Sri Ramakrishna was completely motionless. Because in that, they say that even the heart stops beating. Yeah. Actually in Dakshineshwar it had happened. When then the doctors came and put their fingers in Ramakrishna's eyes, nothing happened. They could not believe. No heartbeat. So it is a wonder that how can that person come without, because the blood circulation will be stopped. So how can that person come again? It is nobody knows. So he found Sri Ramakrishna was perfectly motionless. So he locked the door and went out. Locked the to be completely sure that Sri Ramakrishna was in Samadhi or not. And he did not come for 3 days. He left him as it is. 3 days he came. After 3 days he came. He found that Sri Ramakrishna was not calling him. And so he was very much surprised. 3 days have gone. Then Totapuri opened the door and found Sri Ramakrishna in exactly the same position in which he had left him. So with breathless wonder, Totapuri stared at Sri Ramakrishna. He thought, is it really true? Has this divine person attained in 3 days what it took me 40 years of strenuous sadhana to achieve? Then he was still doubtful. Then he made an examination of Sri Ramakrishna's body because he knew everything, what were the signs. So all the signs were matching. In joy and bewilderment, he cried out. Totapuri cried out, my God, this is nothing short of a miracle. It is undoubtedly Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is the culmination of Advaitic practice, Vedantic practice. And now Totapuri thought he will again bring the mind of Sri Ramakrishna back to the phenomenal world. So maybe he chanted something, Hari Om or something, and gradually Sri Ramakrishna's mind again descended. And he found that Totapuri was looking at him with love and devotion. That it was unbelievable what had happened. So Totapuri actually, when he was wandering like this, he did not stay at any place for more than 3 days. But he stayed at Dakshineshwar for 11 months. Such was the attraction of Sri Ramakrishna. And then he also learned something from Sri Ramakrishna, which is another story. And then Sri Ramakrishna remained practically for 6 months at a stretch afterwards. For 6 months at a stretch, he remained in that samadhi, only very occasionally coming down. So we have it in his own words. I quote him, for 6 months at a stretch, I remained in that state from which ordinary men never return. I was not conscious of day and night. Flies would enter my mouth, just like a dead body. The body becomes like a dead body. Flies would enter my mouth and nostrils just as they do in a dead body. But I did not feel anything. My hair became matted, completely full of dust, 6 months. And there was no chance of the body to survive. But Divine Mother wanted him to survive. So occasionally what happened, his mind came down a little. And for some reason, Divine Mother's play, there was a monk who was present in Dakshineshwar at that time. So he took care of Sri Ramakrishna then. So as soon as he saw that he was coming down a little, he would put some food in his mouth. So at least a little went into his stomach. So that food sustained Sri Ramakrishna, otherwise his body would have not survived. So that was the experience of Advaita Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Sri Ramakrishna's life. And after practicing everything, after completing his spiritual journey, only he said, I have practiced all religions, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity. I have also followed the paths of different Hindu sects. And I have found that it is the same God towards whom all of us are directing our steps, though along different paths. It is the same God, different names. So he says that there is a pond, it has several ghats. Ghat, embankments through which people come and have their bath and all that. So several embankments are there. At one place, Hindu comes and takes water. He calls it jal. Another place, a Muslim comes. He calls it pani. Third one, Christian comes and calls it water. But what they are carrying, is it different? It's the same thing, same substance. So Sri Ramakrishna says that is just like that. It's the same water. Similarly, God is also one under different names. And everyone is seeking Him only. So each religion of the world, each path to God is just like one embankment. There are infinite such embankments. But if one is just sincere and earnest, he can go through any ghat, go through any embankment and reach that water. So a person can reach God by any path. It does not matter at all. So he said, never say that this religion is correct and that religion is not correct, etc. Each path is a valid path to God, and all are absolutely correct. It depends upon the aspirant, how sincere he is in searching God. If he is sincere, he will reach God with the same surety as people following other paths do. So this is the story, and we will just end by again sharing some paintings and pictures. First, I will show you the picture of that cottage, then a beautiful painting of Jatadhari and Sri Ramakrishna. So this photo, no, it is gone. They have completely wiped out everything. It was there, I have seen it. When I was a junior monk, it was there. Yeah, but afterwards I saw what has happened now. It is absolutely finished. So this is that cottage. This photo is taken in 1935. This is the cottage where Sri Ramakrishna practiced his Advaita Sadhana, Totapuri and Sri Ramakrishna. Just imagine they had once sat in this cottage. Yeah. And another photo, recent photo. No, not recent, but another angle. It is the same, 1935. So this was taken in 1935, 90 years ago. So only Ashok Babu was there at that time. None of us had been born. Yeah. 1935, how older you were, Ashok Babu? 8 years. 7, 8 years, anyway. So, and this is a wonderful painting of Totapuri entering the room and Sri Ramakrishna is sitting in Samadhi. You can see here. Very beautiful painting. It's all by, I think, the same artist, Vishwaranjan Chakravarti.
He has been here for me.
Yeah, somebody told me, yeah. I think he's still alive, but I think he's quite old now, so maybe he does not paint. But in Toronto, some devotees had requested him to make some paintings. They had planned out to bring a book or maybe some digital. So unfortunately, that never came about. I mean, it never happened. So a devotee named Pravir Basu has sent me all the photographs. Yeah. Hmm. So this is the story of Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual journey as briefly as we could do. And each sadhana actually requires a separate discussion, especially Vedanta sadhana, and how Totapuri also learned so much from the master, how Bhairavi Brahmani also learned from the master. All these are wonderful things to know. But anyway, we have to leave that for some other occasion. Let us stop here today. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.